It's time for Around the Ozarks Sports Scene, sponsored by Thompson Sales, FastBreak Sports, and The Pitch. Here's your host, Scott Puryear.
Welcome into another edition of Around the Ozarks Sports Scene. I am Scott Puryear. As always, big thank you to the listeners out there this week as we talk sports, and big thanks to our sponsors, FastBreak Sports, The Pitch Pizza and Pub, and Thompson Sales. So we're going to visit with Mike from FastBreak at the end of the podcast about a neat deal they're starting this Sunday at the store, a trade opportunity for all those collectors out there to get together and barter and trade cards with one another, and it should be kind of fun. So what also is going to be fun is talking college football with one of our favorite guests again. He is Phil Steele, the author of what I call the Bible of college football, the Phil Steele's College Football Preview. He was a frequent guest of mine and Ned Reynolds when we had the radio show in the mornings, starting way back in 2001. And he has just completed and put out his 31st edition of the magazine, which is really more like a coffee table book that you want to have nearby for reference at all times. And it is available now at Barnes & Noble stores and Books A Million. I cheated this year, Phil. I bought the digital version online so I could have it with me in my phone, my iPad. But that's a sign of technology, is it not?
Yeah, it is. And, the good thing about the digital, Scott, is that we actually update that all the way through September. So, the Jake Retzlaff situation, we'll have that updated very shortly. And anything that happens between now and basically the middle of September, we'll have updated in there.
Well, and of course, I go cover to cover, and you've got so many formulas and things like that first-time visitors are going to need to read through to understand what you're talking about with those. But one of the things I always find just amazing is 136 FBS level coaches. This year, you set another record visiting with 125 of those guys. How much time do you actually, I guess, put into each team from start to finish with preview and all the data that goes into it? Have you ever figured that out?
Oh, I do it. I do the magazine in a 3 write-through process, Scott. So the first write-through involves me reading every article that was written about the team from last year, and then writing the first write-through, which each position I go, what kind of shape were they heading into last year? What happened last year? Now, what are we looking for this year? And that's what each write-up's about. I would say that part of it takes probably about 3.5 hours on each team, sometimes 4 or 5 hours. Then the second write-through is after we get the spring roster in. It's updated, so now I don't have to rewrite what happened, what kind of shape they were last year or what happened last year, but I do have to rewrite where I think they'll be this year because of the changes, updates, and then, of course, have to adjust all my formulas. That's another 2 to 3 hour process. And then the third write-through is after talking to the coaches. The coaches themselves, I generally spend about an hour on the phone with each head coach, going over every player on the roster, every position, and then I do the third right through. So once again, you're looking at about 3 to 4 hours. So I would say 12 to 15 hours on each team. It's a 7-month process to get this magazine out of here.
Wow. And of course, the transfer portal is not your friend with the spring portal. What is your drop dead date now for going to publication?
Yeah, we moved it back to this past year was June 6th, and that's 5 weeks after the transfer portal is closed. So we do have time to land everybody. We make sure we get everybody signed in the magazine. We've got everybody on the right teams. But it's rather hectic this year, Scott, because the portal actually closed the end of April. So I was trying to cram in all those coaches' calls and all those rewrites into the month of May. I actually normally never do coaches' calls the final week of the magazine. It's all about fine-tuning and making sure everything's in the right order. I did about 12 to 13 coaches' calls the final week just because we couldn't fit them all in the month of May. And therefore, there was a couple of typos in this year's magazine. If we still continue to have 2 transfer portals like we did this year, and it ends at the end of April, I'll probably have to push it back yet another week just to make sure we get this thing perfect each year.
Well, I know it's I have friends, shout out to my friend, Alex, that he waits for it every year. And he's also broke down and bought the digital version along with the printed, so he can get things a little earlier there too. But just a great effort once again. And we're going to talk about our 4 local and regional teams today: Missouri State, Mizzou, Arkansas and Oklahoma, and then a couple national questions there at the end. But starting with the most local one, the Missouri State Bears, big year for them now making the jump to the FBS level and Conference USA. And was this the first time you had talked to Coach Ryan Beard, or had that been something you've done in the past too?
Yeah, since I knew that they were coming into the magazine this year, I actually talked to Coach Beard last year and went over the roster with him,
Okay.
and so it was good to talk to Coach Beard for a second year. And I thought he did an incredible job last year. I mean, you look at the opening up the season, given both Montana and Ball State great games, then going 6-0 in Missouri Valley play, which really was a little beyond my expectations. I didn't think they'd get there. At the end of the year, they lose to North Dakota State and South Dakota State. This just in. Those two teams usually win their games. So
Yeah.
overall, I thought he did a great job last year getting the team to 8-4.
Well, you have the Bears picked in a tie for 10th in their first year in CUSA, along with Delaware and Kennesaw State. Number 135 out of 136 nationally in your power ratings, only ahead of Kent State. Is this really an indication of just how difficult that jump from FCS to FBS can be?
Yeah, it really is, and I'm a little hesitant because as I mentioned, Coach Beard I thought did a great job last year, and we'll see what he does this year. I look at the defense; they lose a lot off the defensive side of the ball. Only 5 starters back, and offensively only 4 starters back. Now he did a great job hitting the portal, but I think the step up in competition. As opposed to playing FCS teams on a weekly basis, they're taking on CUSA teams, which are improved. And then also that the opening 3 games, I mean, USC and SMU, they're playing Marshall, which is, of course, the defending Sun Belt champ, but Marshall's a shell of themselves. I think Missouri State could possibly steal that one. But the USC and SMU games, if I was the head coach, my main goal in those 2 would be stay healthy for CUSA play.
Yeah, how excited should local fans be about a very good and up and coming SMU program coming to Springfield to play the Bears in a rare, visit from a team going out of their domain to play that game?
Really excited. It's not going to happen very often. It was some unusual circumstances that got him there. So let's cherish it. Let's bring him in, and let's have a great fan base for that game. That'll be a lot of fun. I've got SMU playing in the ACC title game for a second straight year with a shot of getting to the playoffs. So they're a pretty good team.
You're high on Jacob Clark, as you should be, on the Bears returning quarterback. Had a fantastic year. One was really the key to their 8 wins last year. You have Missouri State ranked as the 3rd best quarterback room in CUSA starting out, and then number 1 in special teams among the 12 teams. Kind of give me your thoughts on those 2 aspects.
Yeah, and when you look at Jacob Clark, he's a big kid. He's got a great pocket presence. He can really rip it. He's got the ability to process it, and is really in total command of the offense. I like the fact that, in this era, to have a guy that's a 3rd-year starting quarterback is pretty rare. So I like the fact it's his 3rd year, and I also like the backup, Drew Viato, for coming over from Eastern Michigan. He's a guy that I think at 6'4", 230, he's got a big arm. Hasn't played a lot, but also, had that time at Minnesota. So I think that those 2 right there make up a pretty good tandem at the quarterback position.
And special teams, you got number 1 there. Of course, you're probably going to punt a lot being a new member in a new league and a new level, I would guess.
Yeah, and I like the pickup they made. And here's the thing I found. Well, 2 things. First of all, they bring in a Bethune-Cookman's punter in Anthony Frederic, and you might think, well, it's an FCS guy coming up. Well, the whole team's coming up from the FCS. But talking to Coach Bowden many years ago, back before the portal was the portal, he said, "You know what, Phil? The one position that is very transferable from one level to another is the kicking and punting, because if you can kick and punt in Division II or wherever you are, NAIA, you can do it in the regular thing because everything's the same." And so you've got a real good punter coming in from Bethune-Cookman and Anthony Frederic. And the thing I have found overall is that the FCS transfers moving up have had a great deal of success and a higher hit rate than the P2 guys coming down. And then you look at the kicker spot, Yusef Obeid is a guy that came in last year from Michigan State and had a solid season. He had 11 to 12 field goals along a 50. He's an all-conference caliber guy. So when you've got a solid kicker, a solid punter, got a good thing to build on with special teams.
Going over your conference previews and power ratings and such, it looks like Liberty may be a big favorite in that league in your eyes.
Yeah, and you look at Liberty last year, their losses during the regular season. They had the 3-point loss to Kennesaw State, which was a shocker. 7-point loss. Well, I mean, a 10-point loss to Jack State, but there was a late score there. So that was a close game. And even the Sam Houston State, a 2-point loss. And they were getting uneven quarterback play, I thought, last year from Caden Salder. I think Caden Salder came into last year and sort of had a different mindset. Maybe he was thinking, where am I going to play next year? That type of stuff, and didn't run the ball as much. Maybe he was trying to keep himself healthy. And I think that hurt the Liberty offense a little bit. They're much better shape, I think, this year. They've got Vasco and Berger both there at the quarterback spot. They're loaded roster-wise. And as mentioned, their losses last year were pretty close. They could easily have been the CUSA champ. I think they got the most talent in the conference. And there's a chance that, like 2 years ago when they ran the table, they've got that opportunity once again this year.
Let's switch gears and head up north just a little bit to the SEC and the Missouri Tigers. Seems like everybody, the consensus is a little drop for the Tigers this year with, losses like Brady Cook and Luther Burden, and the SEC poll had them, I believe, 12th out of 16 teams. I guess my question is, do we really know how good a coach Eli Drinkowitz is? Because they were ready to fire him a couple years ago, and then they've had 2 really good years. But you look at that schedule, and it's hard to think that there aren't a lot of coaches that have 2 really good years with the talent base they had and that schedule. Because, again, they avoid Texas, Georgia, Tennessee, Florida, LSU, and Ole Miss for a second straight year.
Yeah, they have definitely been the king of the schedule in the SEC, getting the benefit of the doubt. I think we'll find out more next year. I know the SEC hasn't released the schedule, but I can't imagine it'll be as favorable as these last 2 years. But, Drinkwitz is doing a good job there, getting them to 10 wins, 11 and 10 wins. They're one of only 3 teams in the SEC to do that. As you mentioned, though, part of that's due to the schedule. I do think they're going to have a really good defense. You look at their Corey Batoon, the defensive coordinator, doing a great job. He's got a veteran unit coming back this year. A lot of all-conference players. And then I like the pickup of Jalen Catalon coming in at the free safety spot. He's a guy that was a superstar at Arkansas a couple years ago and played well again with UNLV last year. Big question is the offense. They've got Perbula and Horn both battling out for the starting job. They bring in Hardy from ULM. They bring in Kevin Coleman, a wide receiver from Mississippi State. So they get some solid transfers. I like Kirby Moore. He does a solid job as the offensive coordinator. So I think there is talent. You look at the schedule. The schedule's really laid out pretty nice. If they could beat South Carolina week 4, I think Missouri opens up 5-0 this year. Schedule gets tougher in the second half. They're playing Alabama at home, A&M at home, Oklahoma on the road, Arkansas on the road, Auburn on the road. And you know what? That Vanderbilt game on the road is the one that you used to just automatically put in the W column. But since Diego Pavia is there, you can't do that anymore. So second half of the schedule is tougher. But as you mentioned, it is clearly the easiest schedule in the SEC. Getting back to double-digit wins might be tough, but I give them that opportunity if the defense plays at the level I think they might.
Yeah, and he's Drinkowitz is 8-16 on the road since he got to Mizzou, and when they've gone on the road against some of the big ones, it's not gone well. I think of the Bama game last year, I think of the A&M game last year. I think that may be part of the skepticism, not only from their own fans but nationwide. Wanted to ask you, Luther Burden didn't have the numbers last year that he did the previous year. Big part of their offense. Does Marquise Johnson step into that role as a junior and at wide receiver and become the new Burden?
I think maybe Kevin Coleman steps up
Okay.
and is the guy. He's a guy that he picked up the offense really fast in the spring. He's a good route runner. He gets the catch and the run going, and that sort of fits in. Burden was playing in the slot, and I've got Coleman playing in the slot this year. So keep your eyes on Kevin Coleman. He may be the guy to watch.
Heard you on the college football show on Sirius XM. I believe it was Dusty and Danny. I know you've been on just about every show because you're in demand, which is a great thing. But you've got your all meathead team, and Caden Green, the former OU offensive lineman, now in his second year at Mizzou, not only listed by you as a first-team All-American preseason, but on that all-meathead team. What does that mean?
Yeah, and the all meathead team is done by the crew there, and they picked the Jacob Hester, EJ Manuel, Bobby Carpenter, the three
Yeah.
guys, and they picked the team. They put a lot of thought, a lot of effort into it, and I like to put that in the magazine as well. And when I went through the list, I agree with them. It's all about players that are hardworking and just grind it out. Not your superstar guys, but just the guys you want to have on your team. And Caden Green is one of those type of guys on the offensive line. He's a guy that's a student of the game, and he's probably the first guy off the bus. You know what I mean? He's the guy you want to get off the bus, and he's going to give you effort from the start of the game to the end of the game.
Let's head a little south of Springfield down to Fayetteville, Arkansas. Check out the Razorbacks. How hot is the hot seat for Sam Pittman this year? He's 30-31 overall. Last few seasons have not gone as planned for the Razorbacks. Seems like there's a lot of unrest down there in Fayetteville. And then here they are, much like the team we're going to talk about next, OU, just a brutal schedule. Is it going to be a tough year for Pittman and the Razorbacks?
Yeah, can we give Sam Pittman Missouri schedule one of these years?
Yeah, exactly.
I
and
think
Venables would like that one too, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see what he comes out with. I mean, they're playing the third toughest schedule in the country, for crying out loud. Once again, there's really I remember 2 years ago, they played a 4-game gauntlet where they went at LSU, they played Texas A&M at a neutral site, they played at Ole Miss and at Alabama, and in 3 of those games, they were like 3 plays away from winning the games, but they ended up losing all 4, 3 of them very close losses. I think Pittman's doing a great job there. He just plays a killer schedule every year. When I look at him this year, look at him offensively. Talon Green's back, and Talon Green got started slowly last year. In the first 5 games, he had a 4-4 ratio. He hit 49% of his passes. But in the Bobby Petrino offense, he got better every single week. Finished the season hitting 65% with 11-5 ratio the last 5 games, last 7 games, I should say. And I think he's going to really be a solid QB this year in the SEC. They've got talent throughout the lineup. I like Mike Washington coming in from New Mexico State at running back. They bring in Omega Blake coming in at wide receiver. Defensively, they're led by Xavier Sori. When you look at the schedule, they're probably going to be an underdog in 6 or 7 games this year. So just getting back to a bowl game against his schedule should be able to be enough to keep Pittman's job. But here's the thing about Sam Pittman. If you go back and look at the 4 years he's been there, this guy pulls upsets. And I think he'll pull a couple upsets this year. They get to 8 wins. He should be on the list for possible coach of the year. He's doing a great job. And I like the dynamic of having a Bobby Petrino as your offensive coordinator.
And that was a couple things I want to get to with that is you talk about the upset potential. Probably no greater one to raise your national profile than Notre Dame coming in on September 27th to Fayetteville, which is just a rare treat for fans down there. Bobby Petrino, the wide receiver room got wiped out at Arkansas. Have they replenished that enough to give Bobby some weapons to play with?
Yeah, and last year it was basically Andrew Armstrong. I mean, Armstrong had 1,100 yards, and the next closest guy was half that. This year they're going to be a little bit more balanced. They bring in Raylan Sharp from Fresno State. They bring in Cameron Shanks from UAB. They bring in Omega Blake coming in from Charlotte via South Carolina. They bring in a Stanford transfer and is Ismail Sissi. And the one thing, also Jaylen Brown from Florida State. And, when I talk to coaches, I've been talking to coaches for a long time, and we go over JUCOs, for example, first year in the program. Really, JUCOs, the best position for them to have an immediate impact is a wide receiver. And so I think that transfers are in the same situation. If you're going to have an immediate impact, wide receiver might just be that. So I think with all the transfers they have coming in, they may have hit some home runs. I look for a lot more balance out of the Arkansas receiving corps.
I know you watch a lot of football every Saturday, and we're going to get to that here in a minute, but watching Talon Green, does it appear to you like it does to me that he just needs to get rid of the football quicker and more often? Because he takes a beating every time he goes out there.
Yeah, I think that's 100% accurate. Nice observation there, Scott. And I think he will. as I mentioned, he got better in the offense as the year went on last year, and I think you're going to see him improve again. And if you look at the, he got sacked 14 times in the Mississippi and Texas games, and then only 5 sacks the last 3 games. So I think we're going to see him continue to improve in that area.
Speaking of hot seats, down in Norman, Oklahoma, Brent Venables starts year 4. Had a good season sandwiched by 2 6 and 7 efforts. Your thoughts on Brent, and again, a guy that's not been dealt any favors with the SEC schedule.
Yeah, last year they played the toughest schedule in the SEC, and they only had 3 SEC home games last year.
Yeah.
That when the Texas game is at a neutral site, you either have 3 home games or just 3 true road games. Well, this year they're on the other side of the coin. They only have 3 true road games this year, with Texas being at a neutral site. So I like that factor. I'm really bullish on Oklahoma this year, Scott. In fact, I've got my number 1 surprise team in the country, and a surprise team is a non-top 10 team that I think has an actual shot of contending to make the playoff. And when you look at them last year, they held opponents to 87 yards per game below their average on defense. That was number 6 in the country. They've got practically the whole defense back this year. They do lose Danny Stutzman, but I like the replacements. They've got one of the best defensive lines in the country, led by R. Mason Thomas. In fact, I rate it the top defensive line. And if you get pressure on the quarterback, you're in good shape. Now, last year, their offense was feeble, and there was reasons for that. I mean, they had 0 returning starters on the offensive line. The offensive line struggled all year. You look at the receiving core, they were down their top 5 wide receivers due to injury at points last year, and they just struggled. But this year, the receiving core much upgraded. They've got those injured players back, like a Deion Burks, who came over from Purdue last year and got injured after a few starts. They've loaded up the receiving core. I actually think the receiving core goes from a weakness to a strength this year. Offensive line, Bill Bedenbaugh is still the offensive line coach there. Now he's got a veteran unit to work with. I think they'll have a much upgraded offensive line. Quarterback. Now, I'm not putting all the blame last year on Jackson Arnold. The blame was on the O-line and the receiving core, and that's why Arnold struggled. But they bring in John Mateer. I think Mateer is going to be one of the better quarterbacks in the SEC, a dangerous runner, live arm. He knows the offense because they brought his offensive coordinator with him, and Ben Arbuckle. And then you look at the running back spot. I like Javonte Barnes and Taylor Tatum, but Jade Knott just blew me away 2 years ago at Cal when he was the best running back in the Pac-12. Last year he was banged up, a shell of himself, but now he's back to form. Add Jade Knott to that running back core, look out. So when I look at Oklahoma's schedule, I think they've got a chance for a double-digit win season and a playoff berth this year.
But again, as tough as that schedule is, too, they also have a chance to have a final record that maybe is not indicative of how good the team was. And I guess that's the decision OU's got to make. Of course, Joe Castiglione retiring at the end of the year. They brought in Nagy from the Senior Bowl to be the GM. A lot of pieces in place, but that schedule is just brutal. Do you kind of wonder if Venables, kind of like Sam Pittman, if they had Mizzou's schedule or even Texas schedule, what this last couple of years might have been with OU and Venables?
Yeah, and I think if you took Oklahoma and Texas and brought them into the SEC and switched the schedules, Oklahoma probably would have had more success than Texas, be honest with you.
Wow. Yeah, it'll be interesting when they and I guess that would be a great NBC Dateline episode. How do they make the SEC schedule each year? And because, I mean, it was clearly unbalanced with some teams and favored others, but we'll see what happens next year. Kind of some national stuff. I know you're a big fan, like everybody else is, of Jeremiah Smith, the wide receiver at Ohio State. Is he the Heisman favorite going into the season in your eyes?
I think Heisman voters were really anxious to get a non-quarterback to win the award last year, maybe. And now that that's off the table, I think it probably goes back to being a quarterback award this year. And there's some really good ones. You look at, as I mentioned, John Mateer. I think he's a dark horse candidate. But you got a guy like Drew Allar of Penn State, who very well could be playing for the best team in the country. He's got my number 1 set of running backs behind him, my number 1 offensive line in front of him. I think he's going to have a lot of success. DJ Lagway from Florida, if he stays healthy all year, keep your eyes on him. Some guy you might have heard of, Scott, Arch Manning. Have you ever heard of him?
Yeah.
He's getting a lot of preseason publicity. He's actually the preseason Heisman favorite. Garrett Nussmeier for LSU threw for over 4,000 yards last year as an upgraded receiving core. The guy I went with, though, is actually Cade Klubnik at Clemson. You go back to 2 years ago, and we talked about Oklahoma's banged-up receiving core. 2 years ago, Clemson's receiving core was all banged up, had all season long. Last year, they got those injured players back, and then all of a sudden, Cade Klubnik was a much better quarterback with a better receiving core. In fact, 2 years ago, in 2023, he had just 19 touchdown passes and 9 interceptions. Last year, 36 touchdown passes, 6 interceptions. It's amazing what some good quality wide receivers will do. He's got my number 2 receiving core to throw to, number 2 offensive line, a solid backfield, and I think he puts up big numbers this year. Plus, I've got Clemson favored in all 12 games. I think they go 12-0. You got big numbers. You're playing for an undefeated team. I think Cade Klubnik wins a Heisman this year.
Yeah, your preseason top 40, Penn State 1, Clemson 2, Notre Dame 3. And your top 40 is indicative of schedule factored in largely as well, correct?
Yes, I have 2 things in the magazine, the power poll, which is where I rank the overall teams.
Uh-huh.
And then I've got my rankings, which is where I think the teams will finish at the end of the year.
And then, I don't know how much, because you're so busy with previewing the next season, that you're into the recruiting thing. We have the number 1 2026 prospect in the country right here in our backyard with offensive lineman Jackson Cantwell, who about a month and a half ago committed to Miami. Do you follow the high school, or do you kind of wait till they get there because it's such a crapshoot anymore with commitments and decommitments and portal news and things like that?
Yeah, to be 100% honest with you, Scott, I pay 0 attention to commitments because they mean nothing. They
Yeah.
mean absolutely nothing. And how many times, even one day before signing day, all the news is, hey, this player just decommitted from here and went to here. This guy. So I'm not going to waste an ounce of energy worried about some kid where he may end up. I mean, this year, I think there were some freshmen that signed in the winter season and left after spring practice was over. You don't even know if you're going to be there during the year. So I'll wait till they actually sign, get on the team. Maybe they've got a contract that keeps them there for a while, and then I'll worry about where they fit in.
Yeah, he's a 6'8", 325-pound, going into his senior year, that his mom and dad were both Olympic shot putters, and he's got the
Wow.
national record in the shot put now as well. What kind of Miami Canes program will he be walking into? Because he's going to leave early at semester to join them next spring.
Oh, Cristobal's doing a heck of a job there, and he's recruiting every single minute of the day. And in fact, in my call with Coach Cristobal, I actually got interrupted by a recruit. He took a little time out there for 5 to 8 minutes to talk to the recruit, and then we resumed our call. But I mean, he is always looking to acquire talent. I love what they did last year. You know, they actually led that Syracuse game in the season final, 21-0. Looked like they were on their way to a rout. Ended up losing the game late. Had they won that game, they would have been in the playoff last year. And while they lose their quarterback, they got Carson Beck back. They've got a solid offensive line. Defensively, they got 2 of the best pass rushers in the country, in Ruben Bain and Akeem Messidor. So I think he's doing a great job there. They've got a great shot at making the playoff this year after barely missing last year.
One of my favorite pages in the magazine each year, and again, you can pick that up now at Barnes & Noble and Books A Million, is the page that shows your setup in your office with 8 big screen TVs, 12 TVs overall. College football is not doing any favors, like with CUSA playing Wednesday nights and games spread all over the map, are they? Are you okay with that, or what used to be just a Saturday thing for you, I'm sure?
Yeah, you know what? My daughter's off to college now, so
Uh-huh.
that's all I do is work during football season. I don't mind getting a couple of games like that because then you get to listen to it, focus, hear what the announcers talk to the coaches about during the course of the week. You learn some things individually about just that game you're watching. On Saturday, when I'm watching all 12 games, I can only have the volume on a couple of TVs. Then during the week, I'm rewatching games and listening to them with the volume just to get it completely in my head of how it happened. But I still get my fill of my 12 TVs all day long on Saturday, but I enjoy the weekday games.
Do you start with the college football shows, or does it just noon to midnight for you?
No, I don't watch college football shows. I'll just watch the actual games. So usually about 11:45, I start to fire my TVs up, get them all up there, turn the volume on at noon, and then it's a lot of Diet Mountain Dew to get me through the day, Scott.
And if there's a power outage, you're screwed, right?
I have a generator, so I'm all good. I'm all good. I'm not going to miss these games.
Why did I already know that? That's amazing. Phil, as always, appreciate your time. You do just a wonderful job, and hopefully we can bring you back next year and do this all over again.
Scott, we've been talking for almost a quarter of a century now, so I always enjoy our conversations, buddy, and appreciate you having me on
You
each and
bet.
every year as you have.
And that makes us old when you say something like that.
Well, we started when we were 15, right?
There you go. Phil, thanks again. I appreciate it.
All right. Have a good one, Scott. Thanks for having me on.
You too. Phil Steele of the Phil Steele College Football Yearbook Annual Magazine Preview, whatever you want to call it. It's one of the great publications out there. I've been buying it for years. Like I mentioned, my buddy Alex, he's got every edition going back probably 10 years or so. And I highly encourage everyone, if you're a college football fan, to pick up the magazine and learn more about your teams. You'll look at it and go, oh my gosh, look at all this information. Speaking of information, we have on the line with us one of our great sponsors, Mike from FastBreak Sports. Wanted to bring them on to talk about a little special event they've got going on starting this Sunday with the first one of those. Mike, thanks for joining me.
Thanks so much for having us, Scott. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks. Just talk a lot of college football with Phil Steele, who I don't know how, but he somehow knows every name of every kid at every school. He's got to have a cheat sheet there somewhere, I would think, but always fun to bring him on. So
that's the trick.
What you guys are doing here. First of all, before we get into that, I know you guys are excited to see Wyatt Vincent, one of your frequent visitors to FastBreak Sports, an avid collector, get drafted and sign his contract with the New York Mets, and he's on his way.
Yeah, we watched that vigilantly throughout the draft to see where he went, because like you said, he is a longtime friend of the store, and I mean, we wish him nothing but the best luck and support that we can give him. He's a great guy, and he works hard for where he's gotten, and he deserves everything that he gets. So we're really proud to see that he's gotten that opportunity. And we were thrilled to see that it happened, and we were thrilled to just kind of support it and to watch it.
About a month ago, we did the show out there with Sebastian Norman, the Glendale standout, who, as it turned out, actually pulled his name out of the draft pool and is going to go to Oklahoma State and follow his college path there. I know you guys are excited for him as well.
We are, and he's another great friend to the store and real good guy. And, sometimes you just got to do what's right for you. And I think he's made a great choice, and we wish him the best as well. And he's got a lot of ways to go far. So, we give him all the support as well.
You bet. Well, I wanted to talk about the first trade night coming up this Sunday night from 5 to 7 at FastBreak Sports. Over on South Campbell, 3109 South Campbell. I get my numbers transposed sometimes, but
yeah, that's correct. Yep.
Yeah, just south of Burger King and the really good Chinese food place there.
That's right. Grab yourself something to eat first, and then come do some trading.
Exactly. Trade night. What does it entail, and how did you guys finally give in to this demand and desire for having this kind of event?
So we used to do it a while back before, obviously COVID hit and everything went wacko. But it was just an idea that, most shops have, but it's, an idea that we had, or, we do, that allows the community as a general, to come in and just get together, show off your cards, just get to see what other people have to offer, and, leave the store out of it as a middleman, sort of, just a place for, here at FastBreak, we like to really pride ourselves on being like the Cheers of the card stores, where everybody can go in and feel comfortable and feel able to talk, cards, talk sports. And that's essentially what trade night is. You get to come into a place and just share your cards. Maybe you got a buddy that comes in and he's a big Josh Allen collector and you're a Mahomes collector. You've got that opportunity to trade between each other with cards that maybe a store like us might not always get. So it's just another avenue to allow a community just to gather and just build each other's collections up.
That's awesome. And you guys will obviously be open from 5 to 7 while this is going on. So if they need supplies to protect the card or anything like that, right there at FastBreak as well.
Right. Yeah, correct. I mean, if you get yourself a good trade and you want to upgrade that top loader to a one touch or something, we will be open for, any of those purchases. We are cutting off all card sales during the time frame, just to allow the overall general just trade effect. FastBreak as a store is not going to really offer any cards or, anything like that. during the process, but we will always offer the upgrades for your supplies and things. We want to just make sure that, the people coming in it's about them and the trading between them. The store is just kind of like a support hub and a place to gather for it during those hours.
And 5 to 7 this Sunday night, July 27th. Is this going to be, is it a monthly? Have you going to do more of these, you think? Or
I think we will try to do monthly. Right now we're kind of up in the air just to see how this one turns out and then how frequent the feedback, asks for it. But it is something that we decided to get our feedback. Like you said, it's been a while since we've partaken in one. But it was, long overdue time for us to get back in and just support that community in a trade night. Whether the demand, makes it something that we become monthly, we'll just have to see how that feedback goes from everybody who attends.
very good. Well, if we have Phil Steele on, it means football season is just around the corner.
Let's
But
bring it. What is it? 7 Sundays now, or
yeah,
7 weekends?
we're
I think.
getting close. You bet.
Yeah,
And,
let's
and
go.
um, with that being said, baseball season is still just grinding along, but the baseball hobby area likes to bring things in about this time, don't they, to freshen everybody up and get them excited. What's new and hot in the store right now?
Well, honestly, the big thing getting ready to release tomorrow is going to be Topps Chrome. Most of any Topps product with any of the new prospects and rookies are hot, but Chrome just has that extra flair to it with that shiny on the card.
Mhm.
And we're excited for that, because it's fresh, brand new release tomorrow on the 22nd. So we're excited for that. That's going to be a hot product that we're glad to have into the store.
What is the golden ticket in the Chrome box that if you pull it out, you're going, I need a protector on this now?
Honestly, right now, any of your big MVPs candidates, Judge, Otani, your rookie of the year prospects, Wilson, maybe, obviously chasing Skeen still is big. So, and we always like to say, protect who you like to, collect.
Yeah,
So everybody has got their preference and everybody will protect one or the other, but I'd say those currently right now are the big ones to keep an eye on.
and we talk about it frequently, but you guys got a great selection of several teams, fan items, memorabilia, stuff for their walls. Now's the time to get in and decorate that man cave, in it for the football season?
True, and we are planning on bringing in a pretty good order here soon, just in time for the season too. So, what we have now will actually just expand here in a few weeks. We're
Very
looking
good.
forward to finding new stuff. Um, in fact, speaking of football, training camp's hitting. We just got a new collection or variety of mini helmets for the Chiefs. So, you got the opportunity to get that too. But, yeah, we're excited for all that, on top of our trade night as well.
That's awesome. Well, trade night this Sunday, July 27th, 5 to 7 p.m. at FastBreak Sports. Mike, thanks again, and thanks for your continued sponsorship of the show.
Hey, Scott, we appreciate all you do for us, and it's a pleasure to be on.
Appreciate that. We'll talk to you later.
You bet. Take care of yourself.
You bet. Mike with Fast Break, again, our first and original sponsor of the Around the Ozarks Sports Scene podcast, and we certainly appreciate them. Other two sponsors that we're very proud to represent here, the Pitch Pizza and Pub in the Southern Hills Shopping Center off East Sunshine. Of course, your go-to for pizzas, calzones, all the great appetizers, including those awesome smoked wings. It's the Pitch Pizza and Pub. Go by and tell Brian and his staff hello and have a great meal, some cold beverages and TVs with sporting events all over the place there. So the Pitch Pizza and Pub. And then also Thompson Sales, our latest sponsor. Big thanks to Miles, Tyler, Lynn, and the crew over at Thompson's. They were a big supporter this past week, as they always are, of the Price Cutter Charity Championship. I believe they gave away a 2026 GMC Canyon pickup by raffle. I did not win, so that was disappointing. But Thompson Sales been around since 1919. They're having their 106th anniversary sale as we speak. It goes through the end of the month. This is the month that they've been around for so many years, serving great used and new cars and trucks, a tremendous service center, all at Thompson Sales, 1555 East Independence in Springfield. Big thanks to them as well. that's going to do it for this week's edition. Again, a special thanks to Phil Steele for taking time out to join us among all his national obligations and shows, and love bringing him on and talking college football. And of course, love that you're listening. So we'll see you next week on Around the Ozarks Sports Scene.